Våpenkrister under hestion, smaug, blauder, årlaug, kvidre, mjordre, kniv, skekka, netar, sekret, vetun. Berfötta, sikker, svagri, frid, härda, tyskvida, orva, seg, sågu, hårlenskri, frid, skor.
There is nothing like a kettlebell to properly warm you up on a nice, brisk Finnish morning. Welcome to Stage 1, Finnish Brutality 2022.
Welcome indeed to Finnish Brutality, as always put on by Varusteleka, the premier outdoor and military equipment and clothing supplier in Finland, and just a whole bunch of awesome people. So, we're going to start this match off properly with a kettlebell and a Kasarda drill. A few little variations though. The target downrange here is a spinner, and you have to make one hit prone on the spinner from that first cone, then sprint down about 25 yards and do a proper Kasarda drill, which is, of course, you throw the kettlebell. In this case, it's a 20 kilo or a 44 pound kettlebell, and then you shoot from where it lands and repeat this process past all of the orange sticks. Now, normally in one of these stages, you would be shooting prone. In this case, we specifically had to shoot it offhand. You get 5 shots offhand. If you miss it 5 times, then you get to go prone, where it's much easier to hit. Between the running, the kettlebell throwing, and the distance, and the size of the plate, this is the bottom plate on a basic spinner, which is, I think, 8 inches in diameter. This was a tricky shot, and my first couple iterations here, I am not able to get it offhand, which actually also doesn't bode well for the rest of the stage. So I've got a couple more sticks to get past. By the way, each time you get the kettlebell past one of these sticks, you do get a 5-second bonus to your time. That's to help space out the scores between people who don't make it all the way through this section of the stage. There's a 3-minute time limit. Now we're getting a little closer. I was able to make that hit easily offhand. Now, once I finish this section, you then sprint up to the 50-yard line, and you have to spin the spinner. So thus far, all we have to do is make one hit on the bottom plate. Bolt locked open there, oops. Anyway, you have to make one hit on the bottom plate. If you're good and fast, you can actually get the spinner moving a bit during this section of the stage, and that will help you at the last section. So, last shot with the kettlebell, I take it from the stick, make the hit, and then sprint down to the last position. I'm going to change out mags, so I have a full magazine ready to go on the spinner. And now, once again, offhand only. This is difficult. In fact, this section gives me a lot of trouble. Ultimately, I will end up getting a score of 215 seconds here, which is shared by no fewer than 85 competitors. So a lot of people had exactly the same net performance here that I did. So I moved over a little bit to the left to try and square up with the spinner a bit more to get just a little bit more energy on it when I do manage to make hits. And as the stage continues here, I'm actually doing better and better. My breathing is slowing down, my heart rate's slowing down a bit. And by the time we get to the end, I actually start to get it pretty darn close to going over. You can see I'm finally starting to make some hits. I've got above horizontal. I think if I'd had 10 seconds more, I was probably 1 or 2 shots away from spinning that thing. But ultimately, I did not. I ran out of time. Total of 215 seconds net score. Now, because I'm in Recon Division, I'm going to go run 3 kilometers in all my kit. Next stage, Stage 2. We start this from the back of a Sisu armored truck. It's going to drive relatively slowly, actually very slowly, across the range laterally. There are 6 targets on the backstop there, 3 small silhouettes and 3 little tiny plates. Hitting them gives you a 5-second bonus each. I lay down a bunch of fire and get a grand total of bupkis hits on those targets. Hitting targets from the back of a moving vehicle is really hard. Certainly harder than I ever expected. We did something like this last year at Finnish Brutality, and I had an equally difficult time with it. Actually, I think last year I got 1 hit in a stage like this. This time, none. Anyway, once the truck stops, you move to the end, and your time actually starts right now. What they have set up here are 3 sets of small holes with a quote-unquote IED in that ammo can. You have to engage 2 targets, hit them from the position here, then you grab the can and run it uprange to the alternate position for it. So there we go, we'll grab that, run it uprange, drop it in the other hole. It has to be completely in the hole. Take some time to get that set there. Now I run back to the second IED and do the same thing. Engage both targets. I have a little bit of trouble here. The bipod's great and really nice for small targets like this and dirt-colored targets, which you can't even see on the backstop here. However, one of those little teeny birch saplings in the range was exactly in between me and the target, so I had to scoot over a little bit to get an actual clear picture on the target. So, move the second container, run to the third one, and repeat this again. This gets tiring. This doesn't look like the sort of thing that's a lot of work, but it definitely gets you winded. So move the IED up to the front position, and now we're going to reverse the entire thing. So this is a self-resetting stage. I will engage the targets now from the front position, like so. Get a couple of hits, scooch around, get a view through my sights, then get a couple of hits. I chose to use a magnifier here. I have a 3-power Vortex magnifier on the rifle along with just a basic red dot. And I went with a magnifier not because the targets were necessarily too small to hit, but because the targets were dirt-colored and very difficult to actually see. And the magnifier was invaluable for letting me actually identify the targets. If they'd been all bright white painted, I probably could have done most of these stages quite happily without a magnifier, but these are unpainted, dirt-colored targets in a shadow, as you can see there. A little bit of a trick with the muzzle on this stage. You're running up and down range, and you have to keep control of the muzzle, keep it always pointed safely downrange. So, got a couple shots left here, my last iteration, and then it's time to go off on another 3-kilometer run. I was shooting the Recon division, which means you're in 12 kilograms, or about 25 pounds of armor and gear, and after every stage you have a 3-kilometer run. So 5 stages each day, total of 10. That's going to be 30 kilometers run, which really adds an extra element of difficulty and physical exhaustion to the stages. There we go. There's that one. Don't I look like I'm having fun there? All right, the sauna stage. This is a stage where you start in the sauna with all of your kit and clothing in a box outside, and on the buzzer you throw some water on the rocks, jump out of the sauna, and actually put on all of your gear. If you're in armored division, as I was, that must include a pistol belt and load-bearing gear, in my case a plate carrier. I considered doing this without shoes, but I have 20-some kilometers to run after this stage, and any small cut on my feet would have really sucked. So the really hardcore Finnish guys did it without shoes as well. I opted to use shoes. You were allowed to run this in underwear or a bathing suit. I should point out competitors were notified that it would be a good idea to bring a bathing suit to the match. I chose to run it in proper Finnish style, en natural, with just armor and web belt. So what I'm shooting at here are a pair of small silhouettes in between pairs of knockdown poppers. And poppers are no-shoots, so you have to make clear, safe hits between those poppers, get your targets. After this first engagement, you have to jam the tracks of the BMP with a log, throw a satchel charge on the deck, then we move forward to the shooting box. Each time you step into a shooting box, you have 12 seconds to make 2 hits on each of those steel targets without double taps. So 1, 2, 1, 2. There we go. I just killed my first hostage there. That's a 60-second penalty. Anyway, 12 seconds to make 4 hits and move to the next box. It was a lot easier to make the hits safely if you went prone, but if you go prone, you almost certainly miss the time limit. If you miss the time limit, you have to go prone in between the boxes and make a couple of penalty hits, and I wanted to avoid that. So I did okay with just that one hostage up until the very end. Then it kind of all goes downhill from here, and I hit 2 more of the hostages at the very end of the stage. It was definitely a bit of a different experience, shooting completely buck naked except for armor. But that's one of the things I love about Finnish Brutality. Like, you use the sauna without any clothes on. You get surprised in the sauna, well, that's how you're going to come out of the thing. So definitely a fun stage, different cultural experience, shall we say. This was definitely my worst stage score-wise, but one of the more fun ones. And now, it's off for another 3-kilometer run where I'm having a ball. All right, stage 4, math. This is a pistol-only stage, and it is a blind stage, so we knew the general setup before we went in, but we did not know any of the actual details. We start with a sandbag here, just to give you something to do at the beginning of the stage. Run it into the first bay, drop it down on the marked spot, and then you have to flip over one of a couple of cards that are presented, and on that card you will find a number. I got 24. So now each of the 4 targets in this bay are labeled with a number, and I have to shoot any pairs of targets that add up to a total of 24. So I believe on this first bay, I had an 11 and a 13. So you do the math, you figure, you can see I've got 11 there, we've got 16, we've got 13 inside. Figure out what pair is going to make 24. As I so often do, I forgot, took a high grip on the Laugo and bounced a case back into the chamber, so clear that malfunction. There is only one set of plates to clear on this bay, so now I move to the second bay and do the same thing. Because there were the different cards at the beginning had different numbers, and each plate's numbered differently, this presents slightly differently to every competitor, but no matter what you draw, you're going to be shooting the same total number of pairs. If there is more than one set of targets at a given bay, you have to shoot them in order of pairs that add up to 24. So if you have to shoot all 4 targets, you can't just blast all the way across them. You have to hit them in the proper order. And that's in fact what happens to me here. We have 15 and 9, and also 3 and 21. And of course, those walls are set up so that you can only engage one of your pair from any given spot. So a little bit of back and forth. I really enjoy this sort of stage. I like adding in a mental element. Yeah, there's a stop plate at the end. I like having a mental element, something that you have to think about in order to properly process the stage, and I'm really pretty happy with how I did. Could have been a little faster, but no penalties. And now, another 3-kilometer run. Times are getting a little shorter there. All right, last stage, this was also a pistol-only stage, and it was another fun one. This was potentially unfair, but of course, this is brutality, so we considered fair and decided against it. At that very first barrel, I flip over one of the blocks, and it will tell me whether to go to position 1, 2, or 3. From that position, I hit each of the targets and flip over a block, which tells me what position I go to next. So this is 2. Now I just flipped over a 2, so I stay at position 2, hit the targets each again. Now I flipped over 1, so I run back to position 1. You're going to do this a total of 8 times. You don't have to keep track of them. The RO will tell you when you are complete. This is a matter of just back and forth. You can't predict exactly where you're going. You will probably use more than one magazine of ammunition. And again, this is a fun stage. I really like something that changes up your sort of game plan. Really, you can't, in fact, have a game plan for this aside from go where you have to and shoot the targets. The running has really come back to bite me here as I start getting leg cramps, kneeling down to shoot through. Yeah, right there. Kneeling down to shoot through some of these tires. And of course, we're going to finish this and go off for one last run of the day.
Okay, 71.
Not bad. My legs started cramping up on me behind the tires.
71.35.
I'll take it.
All right, now go run 3 kilometers.
Yeah.
All right, no video available for the last run. We will have stages 6 through 10 tomorrow, so definitely check back in for the conclusion of Finnish Brutality 2022. Thanks for watching.